fantasy people? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and this is the Fantasy Footballin' Show. I almost forgot what we were called. Today's episode, Week 14, Fantasy Footballin' on a Budget. Now, this is the episode, the waiver wire episode, and I assign a monetary value to each player. That's why it's called Ballin' on a Budget. You probably barely have any money left. And we always recommend, saving a little bit of cash so you can make maneuvers for playoffs, defenses or, backups, stuff like that, because it is so nice just to have that $1 when everybody else doesn't have anything when it matters the most. So hopefully you have a couple bucks left. And if that's the case, just kind of save it unless it's like a, Zonovan Knight type of situation. So speaking of which, oh, you know what? 1 second. If I could just ask you guys to take a second and click the thumbs up button, that would be amazing. And hey, if you don't like us, you can thumbs down, tell us why you hate us, leave comments. It'd be great. Really help my self-esteem, That's what we're looking for. So anyways, Zonovan Knight, first up, 39% owned still, which is kind of crazy. You think after last week, people would just jumped all over him with no running backs being on waiver wires. So he was the next man up after Mecole Carter went down last week with James Robinson being a healthy scratch. So, James Robinson came back from being that healthy scratch. They really like Mecole Carter Jr. So they just said, screw it. We don't need that James Robinson, because James Robinson's not really a pass catcher. Zonovan Knight was. So they kept him in and got the non-pass catching back out. So anyways, Mecole Carter goes down. You would expect James Robinson to come in and really maybe take a lot. I expected him to take 75% of the carries and Zonovan Knight to just do all the pass catching. So what we saw here was the opposite, man. Zonovan Knight took the job, really. So so he came in as a starter versus the 20th ranked run defense with James Robinson and Ty Johnson both being active. He went 15 for 90 with 5 receptions for 28 yards. James Robinson had 4 carries and Ty Johnson had 7 targets, but Knight is still the main dude. So Robinson, only got 4 carries. That's nothing. And then I did think it was interesting that Ty Johnson got 7 targets, but the way that Mike White throws the ball to running backs, he's going to support 2 running backs as far as, catching the ball. So it was Mecole Carter and I think it might have been Ty Johnson last year too, man. But those 2 running backs last year both got a ton of balls. So anyways, he plays the Bills next week. We're they're 14th against they're ranked 14th against the run. So I expect Zonovan Knight to have a really good week next week if you can pick him up. Mecole Carter Jr. his injury is not as serious as they thought, but he's not expected to return by next week. So you want to go out there and spend whatever you have. I think I'm going to do percents since it's so, such end of the year. It's not like you have $50. I would spend 90% of your fab on Zonovan Knight, whatever that is. And so I'm going to put, in the timeline, I'll put, or in the timestamps, I'll put percentages, and that's not going to be owned because I'm trying to look for everybody that's under 50% owned here. This is going to be just percentage of your fab spent. So if you watch that, you can correlate that to that. Anyways, James Cook, man, my fantasy MVP. It's how I earned Big Turd Ward. I laid a big turd. So I thought maybe I didn't. Maybe I really did name the fantasy MVP because he has a chance, man. He's one of very few people on your waiver wire that has a chance to win a league, a la, what's his name? Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, or Justin Fargas for me 15 years ago. So he tied Gabe Davis in targets a week ago when he had his bad game. But, he's still tying people in targets, wide receivers. This week, he led the Bills in rush attempts and rushing yards, going 14 for 64, while also being second in receptions with 6 for 41 versus the Patriots' #1 rushing defense. So he had a terrible matchup. He led, and he was super effective when he touched the ball. I mean, if you watch that game, dude, how good did James Cook look? And, he was a president of the United States at one point, or a founding father. I can't remember. I can't get my history straight. I went to college, but that doesn't mean crap. Here we go. I'm being crazy. So he faces the Jets' 9th-ranked rush defense next week. And he's getting to the point where you can pretty much start him in your flex comfortably because of the touches that he is getting, and he's not going to get game planned out. It's not like they're going to be behind in any games anyways, but just in case, even if that was, even if that did happen, he is the pass catching running back. So yeah, I really like James Cook going forward, and you only want to start him in your flex. He is startable in your flex, and hopefully he could be a running back 2 by the end of the year, maybe winning leagues. We'll see though. I doubt it. I mean, very low chance, but you're saying there's a chance. Speaking of one of those tickets here, Jordan Mason, man, watch that game. So James Cook up there. Before I forget, I would spend probably like 50%, no, 35% of my fab, 40% of my fab, 40% of my fab on James Cook, just because he's still a lottery ticket. But it's like, dude, there's not very many. There's like 2 of them right now. So anyways, Jordan Mason, 3% owned, right? I think he was the top of my waiver show last week. This guy is awesome, man. He went 8 for 51. That's 6.5 yards per carry versus the 15th ranked Miami rushing defense while filling in for Elijah Mitchell this week. Dude, McCaffrey had 17 for 66. He only averaged 3.9. And if you watch that, McCaffrey is just kind of like, he doesn't hit the hole hard. He's more methodical. He just kind of like shifty. And in the way that Shanahan's offense goes, you got to hit the hole like freaking hard, man, as hard as you can, and not care about dying, I guess. Jordan Mason's that dude. He doesn't care about dying. He just goes straight into the hole. So he looked amazing. Okay, good. I thought I didn't record. I was like, oh no. You know how often that happens? Quite often. Anyways. Yeah, dude. McCaffrey. So anyways, he didn't really get, McCaffrey is like getting a ton of usage right now with Brock Purdy, right? So Brock Purdy comes in, sends 10 targets Christian McCaffrey's way. So 49ers, if you're playing on the 49ers, you're a high injury risk anyways, because that's just the 49ers luck. And now you're Christian McCaffrey playing for the 49ers, getting all these touches. I don't know if they really want to do that, especially after this game with Jordan Mason. I could see Jordan Mason maybe getting, 10 carries a game going forward. But dude, if something happens to Christian McCaffrey, this guy's going to be a running back 1, no problem, man. He's going to be like a top 5 running back in the league. Dear God. So if he's out there, play the lottery and grab him, because he might be a flex worthy start going forward. It's going to suck because you want to see it one more week and then you're in the playoffs. But dude, if you see it one more week, I would start him in the playoffs, especially with all the running backs injuries and everything going on right now. So he gets Tampa Bay next week, and they're 3rd best versus fantasy running back. So it's going to be a tough matchup next week for him. But still, Jordan Mason, 25% of my fab on Jordan Mason. And then so I've got Samaje Perine in here. He's 62% owned, but I'm imagine a lot of people are going to be dropping him. And what I would say to those people or you guys, wait to see who drops him. Pick him up, dude. Did you watch that game? That fool is a real running back 1. He is built like it. In my mind, I always thought he was a 3rd round, not 3rd round, 3rd down back, slight, because he's such a good pass catcher. But dude, you watch that? Yeah, he catches passes and then he'll lower his head and run somebody over. He is so elusive. I really like Samaje Perine right now, man, if you can't tell. So Joe Mixon out another week in concussion protocol. He still hasn't cleared concussion protocol, but he will for this next week. Like I was saying, this is the year of concussion protocols. We've had 2 years of COVID. Now this is a concussion protocol year, and nobody's going to care about it until the playoffs when somebody's quarterback won't be able to start or something. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, he went 21 for 106, 5 yards a carry, dude, versus the 21 ranked Kansas City rush defense. And he was also 2nd in the team in targets with 7, and that turned into 6 catches for 49 yards. And last week we were talking about Zach Taylor being non-committal on saying that Joe Mixon's going to pick up where he left off and just get all the touches. So we've got an overachieving Samaje Perine. We have a injured Joe Mixon. I mean, concussed, and we have Zach, the head coach, being non-committal about giving that that injured player his rollback. So you want to keep Samaje Perine or pick him up when people drop him. I would spend, like 40% of my fab on him. I am not going to write down the percentages because, maybe I will, because I've got to watch this anyways, again, anyway. So there you go. Yeah, so he's at home versus the 29th ranked Cleveland rush defense next week. So they're going to have a sweet matchup next week versus Cleveland. And they've got that POS, man, Deshaun Watson at the helms, and they're not scoring as many points as they did with Brissett. So keep your eye on that. And then I just want to remind people to grab your handcuffs to your studs, like Dontrell Hilliard, stuff like that. Wide receivers coming up right now. Treylon Burks, 47% owned. That should be way higher. He's been on this waiver show for what, like 2 months? Averaging 7 targets a game since coming back from injury before facing the 9th ranked Eagles defense this week. So, that's great, dude. Averaging 7 yards a target. 7 targets a game. That's all you could want, like out of a wide receiver too. Then he caught that touchdown, man. First, it was like late in the first quarter, but it was his only target, and it was an amazing touchdown. I think it was like a 30-yard touchdown, and he got popped right in the head, and he went down immediately, concussed. It sucks. So he's in the concussion protocol. We talked about this. He is probably not going to play this next week, and there's even a chance he might not play the next week. But he is, where else are you going to pick up a wide receiver 1 for a team? I think he's a wide receiver 2 right now for your fantasy team on the waiver wire. So you want to pick up Treylon Burks, and he probably is not going to face a 21st ranked Jacksonville defense next week. So you're just going to have to wait until he comes back. But Treylon Burks, dude, he's a real deal. He looks like it too. So next up, Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's still only 44% owned. It was first week with a bad Deshaun Watson, who he only threw the ball 22 times because it was a terrible Houston defense. But I think so. Donovan Peoples-Jones only had 3 targets, but that was second behind Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper got all the targets. Amari Cooper's going to get all the targets. That's the way it's going to be. But dude, Deshaun Watson used to be a really good quarterback, and I do not like him as a person, but he is super accurate. He would just hit these slants, deep balls, to Kenny Stills, or who was that one guy that always got popped for PEDs? And anyways, I can't remember his name. So Snead, maybe I can do something. Will Fuller, man. And who is this? Donovan Peoples-Jones is kind of doing that Fuller thing. So it's just Donovan Peoples-Jones is a great wide receiver, and you got to pick him up, dude. So he led all wide receivers in yards with 44, but he saved a day with a return touchdown. So at least he has an option. He might get a return touchdown for you, but I'm just banking on Deshaun Watson not being so bad. And if he is not so bad, I'm telling you, man, Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to be a great wide receiver for you. So I would spend. They're going to have to probably rely. They're going to have to score some points next week because they're going up against Cincinnati, and they've got the 8th ranked pass defense against fantasy wide receivers, at least. So he has a tough matchup next week, but I would still start Donovan Peoples-Jones, hoping for the best. Because, that was Deshaun Watson's first game back from this crazy stuff. He's a terrible person, and he deserves to be treated like crap. But I don't know, dude. It's going to take him a while to probably get over some of this stuff. And now, so Donovan Peoples-Jones, there you go. I'd probably spend like 30%, 25% of my fab on Donovan Peoples-Jones, just because I liked him better with Brissett. I think that Amari Cooper is going to be the real benefactor from Deshaun Watson, just with a little bit of time. And then next up, Darius Slayton, big play Slayton, has at least 10 fantasy points in 6 of the last 8 games, led team in targets this last week versus the 20th ranked Washington defense, going 6 for 90 on 8 targets. So, and then he's going against Philly this next week, who are 10th ranked. But dude, this is just an every week thing. Like, he is a flex for you. Darius Slayton is a flex. He is their number 1 wide receiver, and he gets points every week, man. Like, he literally does. So I would spend like 25% of my fab on Darius Slayton, and you can start him in your flex, man, like on a 10-person league. It's crazy. He's been doing this for like 3 years, and now there's nobody else in town, man. Daniel Jones sucks. He is not the answer, but he still throws it to Slayton. And you watch every single deep ball is, to Slayton. It doesn't hit on a lot of them, but still. Then I'm actually really excited about this next one. Michael Gallup, he's 44% owned. He's been dropping. I actually took him off my waiver list for the first time this last week because I didn't think it was going to happen, dude. I've been talking about him coming back and picking up where he left off with with Dak Prescott. Because if you remember this last year, dude, it was like, or it was Michael Gallup was the receiver to start. You did not want to start CeeDee Lamb. It was all about Michael Gallup. And so I just thought it was interesting that this year Michael Gallup wasn't really doing much after he came back from injury. Well, guess what, dude? That first touchdown was kind of a broken play. He was not the first option, but he was the first option. That was a design play for Michael Gallup. His second touchdown was. So he only caught he only caught 4 balls. And CeeDee Lamb looked amazing. But dude, like, where am I? They didn't even have to throw the ball that much. That was a blowout. So if there's a shootout, I can see Michael Gallup getting 100 yards and a touchdown, man. Like, I would rather have Michael Gallup starting almost than Darius Slayton going forward. Yeah, I think I do. And he gets to go against Houston next week, who are the 6th best against wide receivers. So they're only really good against wide receivers because people go up so fast on them. But I can see him doing well against Houston. And it's like a rival game, the Texans versus the Cowboys. Probably want to blow them out. We'll see. Anyways, Michael Gallup. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's great. I would spend, I think I said 25% of my fab on him. And then here's another one I'm pretty excited about. Well, as a Michael Pittman owner, I hate it. But hey, dude, it's just the way it is. Alec Pierce, 11% owned. 8 targets in 2 of the last 3 games. He had a fat 0 in the middle of that. So, like, he had a terrible game last week, right? But the game before that, he had 8 targets. Even with Matt Ryan not throwing much, ever since, Jeff Saturday became head coach, running the ball way more than not throwing a lot. So, and I was telling Jason about this. I'm a Michael Pittman owner. And last game, Michael Pittman got a lot of targets. But I just watched this video of Matt Ryan trying to throw it to Michael Pittman. And Michael Pittman just does this terrible route. And instead of coming back for the ball, he kind of like falls over and like is trying to like fade away from contact. And he gets intercepted, dude. Like, it was totally Michael Pittman's fault. And Matt Ryan gets so upset. And he comes back, he's effing trash. And guess what, dude? Since then, Michael Pittman has just been, so Michael Pittman's in the doghouse, man. And guess what? And when Michael Pittman's in the doghouse, Alec Pierce looked amazing. So he's a rookie out of Clemson or Cincinnati, 6'3". He looks the part, dude. So he's had some really good games before, but now 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's really turning it on. So a lot of improvement for rookie wide receivers. So, they improve the fastest. His ceiling is yet to be seen. So 8 targets in 2 last 3 games. That turned into 4 for 86 and a touchdown versus the 14th ranked Dallas defense. So he looks like the best receiving option. So he has a bye next week and then the first round of playoffs. So this is a scary start. But if you're desperate and we're in a deep league, I would not mind starting Alec Pierce in the playoffs. Just kind of the way it is. And maybe coming out of the bye, it might be good for him, rookie wide receiver coming into his own, coming off a big game. So, yeah. And then they, first week of plans. Oh yeah. And then they play, Minnesota that first week. So, and they're ranked 26th versus, a wide receiver. So he's got a great matchup when he comes back. I'm getting so hungry, man. Here we go. Next up, Zay Jones. 56% owned, but I just want to encourage people after this last game because he did not do well. Only had 2 receptions for 7 yards versus the Lions, but he was still second on the team in targets. And it's just like this game is, dude, it's like Trevor Lawrence is just, his year. And I know he got injured, but I still like Zay Jones. It's him and whatever his name is, dude. I can't even think of his name. But anyways, here we go. In targets, second team target. So he has 31 targets over the last 3 games, and he gets the Titans 31st ranked wide defense next week. So Zay Jones has a sweet matchup next week. Man, dude, I did these videos back to back. I've been talking for like, oh yeah, holy crap, for like an hour and a half. I'm running out of steam. I didn't think that was possible. Elijah Moore next up. So Zay Jones, I'd probably spend, like 25% of my fab on that because, dude, he is so heavily targeted in this offense. Elijah Moore, I know that he didn't produce, but hey, dude, Mike White still almost threw for 400 yards. So there is a lot to go around there. And it's not like Corey Davis you can trust anyways. I really do like Elijah Moore. Ran 45 routes on Mike White's 59 dropbacks. Garrett Wilson at 54, just for reference. And so he was in the slot 42 of those 58 snaps. And he gets the Bills next week. So the Bills give up stuff to the slot. So I actually want to see what Elijah Moore does next week. If he doesn't produce next week, I might pump my brakes. But I put $1 on Elijah Moore because nobody wants him. And then Hardman. People need to be paying attention to Mecole Hardman. He started lifting weights again last week, so he'll be practicing again soon. That guy would be doing really well right now, actually, because without Kadarius Toney, I know Kadarius Toney's hamstring, but hey, Toney's hamstring might not be right till next year because that seems to be a recurring issue with him. And then last up, OBJ. He's visiting with the Cowboys. And I just want to tell you, probably don't pick him up, dude. Don't waste your time. This is going to help the Cowboys in the playoffs, not for your playoffs. So don't waste your time with OBJ. Tight ends. Tyler Conklin, 38%. Tied for second in targets in Mike White's first week as starter with Zach Wilson out. And now he tied for third in targets with 7 this week versus, Minnesota. But these targets have not turned into production, but he's startable as long as Mike White's running things. Because, 400 yards, man. So Conklin plays the 8th ranked Bills defense next week. So I like tight ends and slot receivers versus the Bills. So I'm really interested to see how Elijah Moore and Tyler Conklin does against them. But hey, dude, Tyler Conklin still got 7 targets. If my tight end gets 7 targets, I am so happy, man. If you don't have Travis Kelce, you would love to have 7 targets. So Tyler Conklin, still go for it. And then this guy is really interesting. Noah Fant, 30% owned. He's been averaging 5 targets a game over the last month and just caught his first TD since week 2 against the 13th ranked Rams defense. And now he plays Carolina this next week. So Noah Fant has been coming to his own. Like when I watch these games, it feels like he's targeted quite a bit, man. So I really like Noah Fant as a tight end. I think you could pick him up and probably start him most weeks. I'd spend, $1 on Noah Fant. Nobody really cares about Noah Fant. Juwan Johnson, 23% owned. He was injured this last week. He didn't practice at all last week, but I still thought maybe he can just pop in and catch a touchdown like per usual. But no, so he still has 5 TDs in the last 7 games. Couldn't practice all week. So he's on bye the next week, but then he's going to be healthy for the playoffs. So this is a fantasy football playoffs. And if you're just looking for a tight end to get a touchdown, you can start Juwan Johnson after the bye because he'll probably be healthy. It's probably part of the reason he did not play because they're just like, dude, why are we playing this guy? We have a bye next week. Foster Moreau, who's been on this forever, dropped down to 49%. He's third on team in targets. That only turned into 1 catch for, it was like 30-something yards. So versus the 28th ranked Chargers defense this last week, he has 2 touchdowns in the last 4, which is really good. And he's only been under 30 yards 1 time this season since taking over for Waller. So as far as yardage, I mean, that's pretty consistent. He's not going to get you a goose egg. And he's got touchdown upside, almost like 50-50 recently. So he's not going to get you a goose egg, 50-50 touchdown upside. Foster Moreau, man, plays the 13th ranked Rams defense who just allowed that touchdown to Fant this last week. So he's got an okay matchup this next week. Next up, Austin Hooper, 11% owned. Led the team in targets with Okonkwo, the other tight end versus the Eagles' 9th ranked tight end defense. So that Okonkwo, he's like the rookie tight end. Titans were kind of getting more involved, but he's had like 3 or 4, he gets like 3 targets a game, but it just really hasn't ever amounted to much. This is the first week where he's actually led the team. So I still trust Austin Hooper. But yeah, so with Treylon not playing next week, probably, I kind of like Austin Hooper maybe catching a touchdown. That's the only reason I have him in here. And then Greg Dulcich, he's back, baby. He's had a couple bad games. He's only 30. I think he's like 30% owned right now or something. He had a 38% target share and 40% air yardage share in week 13. He was just the second tight end under the age of 23 to record such a target share over 35% in the game in the last 10 years. I know that's a weird stat, but if you think about that, it's pretty impressive. So I don't trust Russell Wilson, but hey, man, Greg Dulcich, he's got upside for a tight end. He's young. I'd spend $1 on him. Quarterbacks, dude, Jared Goff, only 30% owned still. Through 2 TDs versus Bills last week and followed that up by throwing 340 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the 26th ranked Jags defense. Okay. Now he at home versus the 27th ranked Minnesota defense next week. So you can start Jared Goff next week and get you to the playoffs, dude. Jared Goff is better than most. They're on like a 4-game winning streak. So Jared Goff has been playing pretty well. Next up, Mike White, 14% owned, threw for 369 yards with no touchdowns versus the 24th ranked Vikings defense this last week. But he did get that goal line sneak, which was by this much. It wasn't even a touchdown. They had to challenge it. But the interesting stuff is, so he just got announced a starter again. He's at Buffalo this next week, so you're not going to start him this next week probably. But then he gets Detroit and Jacksonville in the playoffs. So if he can make it to be the starter, I would be loving to start Mike White in the playoffs against Detroit and Jacksonville. And then at Seattle. So he's at home versus Detroit, at home versus Jacksonville, and then at Seattle for the playoffs. So Mike White, as far as playoffs go, oh yeah, baby. I'd spend 20% of my fab on Mike White, dude, because of that playoff schedule. And then Daniel Jones, 57% owned. He just ran for 12 for 71 while throwing for 200 yards and a touchdown versus the Washington defense. He's had 10 rushing attempts 4 times this season and has thrown a touchdown in each of his last 4 games since the bye. So he plays the number 1 ranked Philadelphia defense next week. But dude, he's a safe floor quarterback. If you just need 15 points from your quarterback, pick up Daniel Jones and you can start him. I'd spend $1 on him. And as far as defense goes, Kansas City versus Denver is going to get you a lot of points, man, because you just stream whoever you can versus Denver. Same thing with Houston, but it's some like 100% owned defense going against Houston this next week. Anyways, guys, I'm going to get some food. I just talked about football for about an hour and a half, and I love it. So, hey, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that'd be amazing. Thank you so much. See you later.